Python is popular for multiple reasons, the most exciting of which is the fact that it was Google searched more times than Kim Kardashian and Donald Trump. So what is the story of this language that shows up so often in conversations about programming? In today's video, we're going to discuss the history of Python right from its developmental stages till its present-day maturity. Let's get into it. What we know as Python today was pretty much the product of a Christmas holiday project. In 1989, a man named Guido van Rossum had found himself with nothing to do when his office had closed for the holidays. At the time, he had been working on designing system utilities for Amoeba, microkernel-based distributed system. Figuring then was a nice time, he started developing a language that would take the best parts of the C and improve the less delectable qualities. Python was the solution that could offer more readability, was more programmable, and take a shorter time to use than C. It was also intended to appeal to hackers in Unix and C languages. Python is very much the opposite of the huge, meandering reptile you'd be best advised to turn the other way from. The name Python was taken from the BBC's TV show Monty Python's Flying Circus, of which Van Rossum happened to be a fan. He also wanted something that sounded edgy, mysterious, and could be spoken in one breath. Python's current status as an easy-to-learn language derived from a long history of simplicity in design strategy. When presented at Centrum Wiscon Informatica, his workplace, it found a welcoming reception. Van Rossum faced the dilemma of deciding whether to make it open source or otherwise because the business model followed by language developers at the time was still inconclusive. The reason for that was that even proprietary languages had difficulties going mainstream. Unlike how you could easily publish your code and make it accessible on GitHub today, it wasn't so seamless in the 90s. The source code for Python's interpreter had to be broken into 21 uncoded before it could be shared on Usenet. The first Python iteration, 0.9.0, was loaded with features like exception handling, functions, modules, and classes. There were also core data types like list, dict, and str. This opening model had inherited an appreciable number of features from its ancestor, the ABC. By January 1994, when its next version, Python 1.0, was released, it had earned itself a separate channel on the Usenet platform. Its central qualities were functional programming tools, keyword arguments, and support for complex numbers. That same year, the National Institute for Standards and Technology selected Python for use in standards-related projects. To use it effectively, they needed someone who was versed in the language, and no better option presented itself than the creator. With the institute now behind him, Van Rossum was able to popularize Python by attending conferences and organizing workshops. The exposure attracted people who would become some of its early and most important contributors. In little time, Van Rossum got another offer from the Corporation for National Research Initiatives, CNRI, a non-profit organization. The position allowed him to create a team of interested developers and smoothen the release of newer versions. Python 1.3 through 1.6 were under this partnership. The language also got its own official website and mailing list. By the time Python 2.0 was released in 2000, the language was shaping up nicely. It had its own collection of principles listed in the Zen of Python. This is a body of 20 rules, some of which are beautiful is better than ugly, simple is better than complex, and a pretty popular one, there should be one, and preferably one obvious way to do it. Some major highlights of its pre-21st century evolution was the adoption of Python in the Microsoft Merchant Server and the conferment of the title of Benevolent Dictator for Life, or BDFL, on Guido van Rossum in 1995. Python 2.0, when it came on board in October 2000, had fresh features like Unicode support and a full garbage collector. It also had list comprehension, which was being used in functional programming languages. Even then, the central developers were considering a new version that would decongest the material acquired by Python in its years of upgrades and iteration. The result was this, Python 3.0, which brought with a host of problems. The primary one was that the language had become so popular, the update affected users who were relying on third-party libraries. It was easy to transfer scripts to the new version, but it became less so trying to move libraries that were slower to upgrade. But while it was an awkward transition, the decision improved the language. As of 2022, Python's newest update is the version 3.11.0, which is up to 60% faster than the older 3.10. Python now competes with top programming languages like Java and JavaScript. Its rapid surge in popularity has been attributed to the development of interest in big data and machine learning. Besides that, there are tons of new developers who increasingly search for simple and straightforward ways to break into the world of programming. Python possesses thousands of libraries, frameworks, multi-purpose functionalities, and a dedicated community of fans known as Pythonistas. When you combine all of these, you realize why the language is such a frontliner in the programming world. And that's it for today's video. What language do you think might overtake Python in the coming years? Leave your thoughts in the comments section, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one.